Hey, good morning, y'all. Hope you're doing well today. So today's message was actually inspired by a little something I saw this morning. There was a mockingbird that was hot on the tail of this larger bird. I think it was a crow, right? And so it was just swooping in and diving down and just pecking him and attacking him. And the crow kept trying to get away and was not successful, right? Of course, the mockingbird was like a fifth of the size of the crow, right? So it was not going to do any damage, but clearly it was angry about something. That was my perception, right? So this spurred a thought, which is, in our reality, you know, we've talked about perspectives and paradigms and things like that, right? The subjective reality, how that's all different for each one of us, based on our upbringing, our culture, our conditioning, all those things. And so I feel like there are major points to our reality that we all take for granted. Like we don't just keep them in our conscious awareness in the forefront of our mind all the time, but they're there. And it's almost like just things like, for example, when you see something like that, I think a lot of us would probably assume that there was a reason for that. You know, like the mockingbird may have had a nest with babies, and maybe the crow had threatened the babies, and so maybe this was a mother mockingbird. That's something that's really common to see, a mother bird who is on the attack. Maybe the father birds do that too, I don't know. But I know the mother birds, if they feel like their babies are under attack, they'll absolutely, they're fearless. It's like they'll even go after cats. So it's really interesting. But this spurred a thought in my mind. And that is that you see how easy it is for us to draw a conclusion like that, right? And that's because our reality, we feel like, has certain laws, right? I mean, just think about gravity, for example. Nobody argues that. So there's a certain set of rules or laws that govern our reality, right? Or so we think. And because of that, and see, this is where you can get taken advantage of, because we apply this same concept to humanity. And then you have people who don't actually fit that mold, who don't play by the rules, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it just short circuits our mind. It's like we can't grasp it. But in general, that was the inspiration for today's message. Just understanding that we all have paradigms. We've talked about this before. Paradigms, perspectives, with which we understand our reality. So I got to thinking about, I actually saw a YouTube video, and I didn't watch the whole thing. I just saw a few minutes of it. I didn't have time to sit through all of it. And this person was talking about, and it sounded great. It really did. It sounded really good. They were talking about approaching life from a manner of not striving, but just allowing things to fall into place, and understanding that there's a higher power at work, like a creative force that's just happening anyway, that we don't have to interject ourselves on top of that and strive. And you know, there's times in my life when I feel like that's very true, and you can relate that to saying getting our ego out of the way and all that. So I can justify those couple of minutes that I saw. You know what I mean? I really would want to watch the whole thing and get the context before I made a judgment for myself on how I felt about that. But I could probably make an argument, you know, based on the other things I've read, to justify the message. But then on the other hand, I was thinking, and remember, my goal on my channel is always to get the wheels turning if this is your first video, right? I never want to try to present absolutes or convince you of my way of thinking or anything, right? This is all about learning and growing and getting the wheels turning for my viewers. So the other opposing thought I had was related to the video that I made yesterday, right? About standing your ground, meaning occupying, keeping a hold on your space, your mind space, okay? And so Then you think about Bible verses like faith without action is dead. Well, that verse goes against that, right? It means you have to actually do something to make your dreams come true, to create a beautiful reality. It's not just going to fall in your lap. So I know there's a lot of a gray area with regards to this topic, and I could probably take it in either direction depending on the particular perspective in the moment, right? But I want to share something with you. So if you think about it, I feel like in the Bible, when it's talking about the Garden of Eden, I believe there's significance there where we're shown what God's intentions for our life and therefore our reality, our human experience, were, right? To live just totally surrendered, not even, remember, it was forbidden to eat from the tree that had the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. So it's like, and then there's another verse that says we are to become as little children to enter paradise. So there's this state of innocence, right? Which is what a great parent wants anyway for their child, to not know about all the horrible, evil things in the world, to shelter them from that, right? And so I feel like that was the intention when God created us, that we would live in that protective state, right, under His wing. But just like any loving parent, we were offered free will. And so we know how everything went from there, right? And so the point is that when you try to approach this reality, like it's not a fallen world, like it's still that initial state that God intended, I feel like that's going to make you vulnerable. Let me explain, okay? Because it is a fallen world. So I don't feel like it's safe to approach life too openly. I actually had a good friend of mine say to me one time, "You're too open. You're too open." And that statement in itself really expanded my mind. Like, oh, I guess I do approach life just assuming everybody has good intentions. You know what I mean? And so I was making myself vulnerable and I didn't even know it. And so living guarded and knowing when it's safe to remove that guard and share yourself, your heart and your mind, the depths of your mind with someone else is important. Otherwise, it's much safer to live guarded. And we are instructed to do that, right? And so remember the dangers of hypnotism, which I also discussed yesterday, right? So I mentioned, I feel like there are some people who don't operate within the intended laws of our reality, okay? And this doesn't mean, this is really important, that we need to approach life from a doom and gloom perspective. Not from victimhood and feeling like we have to claw our way through life. You know, we don't have to do that. But from the mindset of a champion. Now, this is important. We're going to elaborate a little bit here. All right? Because we have gone through hard life lessons, understanding what it really means when you hear the words fallen world, to understand that firsthand because you were entangled with somebody who chose that free will for bad purposes, for bad intentions. Like I said, don't approach it like you're striving in the manner that you're clawing through life and you're just terrified and you have this horrible mindset about our reality, but from the viewpoint of the champion, because you've come through some hard things, right? And now you're on this side. You're victorious in that manner, okay? So the approach should be from the victory. All right, now what can we learn? So much. so much we can learn, but just a little bit we're going to touch on today. if we just simply take the lesson here that narcissistic people, liars, manipulators, people who intend to do bad in the world, right? And they don't care who they step on and use and abuse, right? If we accept this one aspect that they don't fit into like the laws of nature, really, you know what I mean? These rules of our reality, then what we can do is actually take that aspect that they don't fit into these expected patterns of nature, and we can reverse that and use that and build on that as part of our defense against these people, okay? Just a smidgen of their tactics. I'm not talking about turning into a narcissist yourself, right? Like hardening your heart and, like I just said, giving up on humanity and just approaching life from doom and gloom. I don't recommend any of that, right? Just a smidgen of their tactics. So, and this was interesting to me too, okay? I'm going to reference yesterday's video again where I was talking about hypnotism and how, you know, that's just it. We don't think that's operating in our day-to-day life, but it is through these people who cast spells on us, right? What they're doing oftentimes is they are using these techniques of hypnosis to get us ensnared, entangled, like in this trance state of trauma, but we don't know how to identify that and recognize it, right? Identify that. We're unaware. But they can do this oftentimes just like a hypnotist with a loud voice, a commanding voice, and it's shocking to you. It's shock and awe, and it throws you into this state of, I've mentioned before, being frozen. And then you're just right for being manipulated at that point, okay? Well, what's interesting to me, talking about reversing these techniques, sometimes therapists and life coaches will use the same technique with a loud commanding voice to snap us out of this trance. So this same technique can be used for good, right? From someone with good intentions. And that's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful. So that's just an example, okay? So I want to wrap this up. I'm going to keep the video short today, but I just want to say, don't stress when you see that narcissistic people steal aspects of your personality, because they're taken from you all the time, right? And again, we have this choice now. I feel like at that point we're presented with a choice to take our experience and feel like a victim, or to learn from it and become better, a better version of ourselves, right? So like I said, we can do that same thing. They're stealing from us. We can steal their tactics from them and use for the good. So now we're starting to talk about actual techniques, actionable things we can do in the fight of good versus evil, in the spiritual battle, right? Specifics have always helped me. So I just wanted to share these insights that came to me, okay? And remember, God uses all things for the good of those who love Him. And I've always loved that Bible verse, right? All things. He uses all things. And if you think about it, we're also described as the body of Christ. So we can be a part of, even Jesus instructed His disciples when He would perform miracles, He would look at them and say, go and do as I do. These things you can do, and He said, and more. So we forget there's so many things in this reality that help us or encourage us to forget this power that we have inside of us. And so I'm just trying to do my small, tiny little part to help remind you, okay? Because of this right here, because God does use all things for the good of those who love Him, and because we can, and we are instructed to do what we can, then this is why the odds are always stacked against those who do wrong, okay? And we have to remember that, because it doesn't seem that way always. So I just encourage you to give yourself the time and the space to zoom out and to see the whole picture, all right? Because when you do that, and it's kind of like now you're seeing the true paradigm of our actual reality, which is a fallen world. But now you are aware, okay? And when you're able to zoom out and do that, now you're able to embrace a peaceful lifestyle, okay? Like for real. So I hope this has been encouraging, and I hope I've gotten the wheels turning for you, and I just hope that you have a beautiful day, and I will see you again very soon.